Okay, 7:04 and you're live.
Okay, so I get that in there. Okay, so welcome everybody, current members and members that will start in February. I'm glad that everybody is here. So this is welcome to the first meeting of the Environmental Board of 2021. So I'm not entirely, what do I have in my agenda here? There's probably an order. So I guess the first thing we need to do is elect the new board chair. And so do I hear any nominations for, and this is going to be only for the current members, Gina, Lucille, Tracy,
Gina.
Dave.
I nominate Kevin.
I second the nomination.
Okay.
All in favor?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Any other nominations?
And statement.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, what? Do you have to make a statement? No.
Oh,
I humbly accept this nomination. Okay, so are there any other nominations from the floor?
Did we vote on it? Did we get a
Yep.
chance to vote on it?
Yeah, we gotta make sure we got any other nominations though.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. You're asking the question.
I may be from outside of Chicago, vote early, vote often, but you know, I'm gonna try to do things on the up and up this time. All right, so hearing no other nominations, do I hear a motion to call the vote?
So move.
Okay, second for that?
second.
Okay, there we go. All right, so all in favor of me being chair again? Say,
Oh,
so,
all in favor?
Aye.
All of us.
okay, so did I see Gina? I didn't see Gina.
Do we have a quorum?
Aye.
For crying out loud?
Okay, so yeah, we have a quorum, and so I think that was 5-0 in favor. Okay, excellent. Okay, so now I think that we can probably, maybe I had to do the minutes first. I don't know. Nobody tells me anything. Okay, so thank you. I will try to do a better job of everything. All right, so let's see. I'm looking for.
Well, let me just interrupt and just say thank you. It is a responsibility, and I appreciate that you've stepped into it. There's a lot of organization that has to be done, minutes that have to be kept, and somebody to kind of generally keep us on track. So thank you.
Yes.
We appreciate you stepping into
Yes.
continuing with the position, I should say. Okay.
There you go. Well, it's all Mark's fault. I told when I thought he was a long shot at becoming council member, I said that
He was never a long shot. Come on.
I know. I still have some unresolved feelings about some of his life choices this last year. All right, so here we go. So I finally got I got better. All right, so here are the minutes. Dave pointed out that there's agenda is up here. We can get rid of that later. These are the minutes from December 9th, 2020. Any comments, suggestions?
Move we accept as written, change the top from agenda to minutes, I guess, at the very tippy top. Other than that.
Okay. I got to cycle through all my windows that look very, very similar. and make sure, because I'm trying, what I've started to try to do is to write the minutes as we go so that I don't forget anything. So, okay, do we have let me stop the share so that I can see all of you. So current members, all in favor of accepting the minutes of the December meeting of 2020, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Lucille, I didn't hear.
Yes,
you.
I said.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
Along with
All right.
everyone else.
excellent. Okay, so we got everybody there. So, all right. So those are our minutes. So I guess maybe we're a little bit out of order. I probably should have done the minutes first. Anyway, we're welcome somewhere else. I do want to take the opportunity before we get into some of the other bits of this to, again, this time for reals, thank, not that it wasn't for real last time, but to thank Lucille and Dave for their years of participation on the environmental board. This is their last meeting, and that's why we have all of our new members coming in here to sit in and see what was going on. So thank you again, Lucille. Thank you, Dave.
Very well.
I know that this is not the last bit that we're going to be helping the city with and keep track of us and keep us on our toes. But we do appreciate your formal service.
Yeah, and I would just like to add, yeah, thank you, Lucille, and thank you, Dave. You guys have been instrumental to the board for a very long time, and you will be greatly missed. For both of you, your drive to protect the city, the environment, Dave's tenaciousness, those are all great qualities, and we're gonna miss it. We're gonna miss you guys. So thank you for all your service.
Thank you. Thank you.
We do appreciate that. At the same time, we had two of our members leave early from their time, Kim Noling and Joan Fox, who they were also going to be up. This would have also been their last meeting. And so we have three new members that have been voted on by, approved by Common Council, as put forward by Mayor Herzig, and I would like to welcome them. I appreciate you all three coming today, even though you won't have an official role until the February meeting. I felt, especially in the time of this Zoom and everything being kind of weird, getting in and seeing what this is all about is appreciative. So if you all want to just kind of introduce yourselves, that would be great. So Paul, you want to start? Nope, you're still it.
So hi, everyone. I think I know many of you, and I know of all of you. All of your faces look familiar. And so my name is Paul Bischoff, and I'm happy to help out in any way that I can for the betterment of the city of Oneonta.
So we don't know, are you a professor at?
Yeah, I didn't want to say too much. So I've lived in Oneonta for 20 years now. I moved here in 2001. And I've been teaching with several of my colleagues in front of me here at SUNY Oneonta for 20 years. I run the science education programs. And so I actually know a lot of environmental science, if that helps.
Very good.
He's always an advocate for those things sustainable on our campus in environmental science. So
Wants
Good. I'm
to
happy
go
to be
next.
here. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Welcome. Oh, come on.
I guess I'll go. I am Dave Ainsworth. I've lived in Oneonta probably for, I guess, 14 years now. I teach English at Delaware Academy in Delhi. And I use the parks every day to walk my dog. So I definitely have an investment in the environment and, all of the really wonderful things the city has to offer regarding nature and woods. And so, yeah, when Gary asked me to join this board, it sounded very intriguing. So here I am.
Excellent. It's good to see you again, Dave.
Yeah, nice to see you, Kevin.
It's been a while.
It has been a while.
welcome.
Thank you.
And Mike.
Yeah, I'm Mike Forster Rothbard. I was just thinking, I guess I've lived in Oneonta for 11 years now. And I think many of you know I'm a photographer, but what you might not know is I also have a background in urban planning.
Oh, really?
And watershed management also. And so I'm looking forward to joining in, seeing if we can do stuff. I'm also on the Oneonta Susquehanna Greenway Committee meeting. Committee. And so if I can in some informal way be a liaison and help that committee and this committee coordinate, that would be great.
Super.
That'd be wonderful, Mike. We've had a lot of, it's been good when we've had people on like the gardening and stuff like that, and other committees that are associated or aligned with the environmental board. They've really brought in some good things. So I think we're all looking forward to having that connection between the Greenway and the board. So,
And Mike, welcome. We appreciate it. I'm liking the beard. That's
It just,
that
this
is
is
a
my
full
this is my COVID beard. It just kind of happened when I stopped shaving.
beard.
funny how that happens, right? I mean, I stopped getting haircuts, and
But anyway, welcome. And yeah, I used to serve on the Susquehanna Greenway board probably 15 years ago. And there's a lot of synergy between the two. So
Yeah.
it's nice to have somebody serving on both.
excellent. So again, welcome new members. We look forward to all of this. And when I hear more about what the possibilities are for our fourth position, I will let everybody know.
How about Gina? We could Gina, you're going to have Gina give her bio also?
Well, she's been here for a year.
Been with us for a while, so.
I'm old news.
You are.
She's no longer the
You're
newbie.
going to have just 3 meetings now, haven't you? I don't know.
Another dangerous academic.
No,
I
it was
know.
January through March, and then we started up again, I believe, in August. So I think there's only 3 meetings that we didn't have due to COVID this
All
past year.
right.
So
And Kevin, maybe you should point out that there's not like some mass exodus from the environmental board for a particular reason. It just seems like
No.
the board imploded or something.
it did.
No, it's a whole group of new people. No, you're
Well,
absolutely right.
So I
The way
think
the
that there was,
cycles work.
no, it was people were cycling out. There are a set number of years apparently, and so a lot of service time was coming up, and so that was what was happening, and then that was it. So it's actually been a pretty stable committee for quite some time. I was on it for I think I started 3 or 4 years ago, and it stayed constant until last year, and then again this year.
Well, there's a charter revision a while back that said you could only repeat yourself twice, I think. Am I right, Mark? To that, you could stay on forever, as I'm a witness to that. In the board, you were on the board, you were on the board. Nobody cared as long as you said yes, you were on. Now I think you have to get off. After 2 terms, I do believe.
Yeah, it's either 2 or 3 terms.
After
but
all these, pardon?
It's either 2 or 3 terms, but you're right. That's now in the charter.
But it'd be good to stagger the terms so not everybody retires the same date that's in front of us now. Maybe give somebody a shorter time than they get reelected or whatever. I don't know.
Well, luckily for me, that would be somebody else's problem by the time this crew cycles out. But that is something to certainly consider. Okay, well, again, welcome everybody to this board. If it feels like it's taking a while to get your feet, I think that's kind of normal. And again, because we are having such a big changeover due to everybody having their term over, it's also an opportunity to sort of rethink how we're moving forward. So we've had a sort of a set way of doing stuff with, as you see, a certain set of committee reports and so on, and that can change as we feel are needed. I don't believe we have any petitioners. I don't know. Carrie, I guess, can tell me that if there's anybody begging to ask a question from the YouTube stream.
You have no petitioners and no correspondence.
Okay, well,
At
I
least
do
through
have,
our office.
okay, yes, I have one email that came to me shortly after our last meeting from Susan Lettuce, who was interested in ways that as a citizen as a resident of the city, of being able to help the board. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because it occurred to me today when I finally got back to responding to her, that there's a few things that we're going to be talking about today I want to bring up, and Mark can bring up as well in some of the committee reports, where I think that there is an avenue where we might be able to leverage things that we've already talked about of making a bigger outreach presence, where maybe the environmental board can think about ways of being a central repository for people to sort of volunteer. So I'm thinking in particular the things like the knotweed removal. That was sort of an ad hoc thing that happened this summer. But one thing that maybe what the environmental board can do, if we can do better, more outreach, have a bigger web presence or social media presence, is maybe we can be a way of putting people together on these sorts of projects. I didn't know exactly how to put that into the agenda, and then I realized that was correspondence, and so I could put it there. So I just want to put that out there as food for thought for later things. So that was the only correspondence that I got to share with you. And so that brings us to Mark, our Common Council liaison.
Thanks, Kevin. I want to start, and I need to thank Dave and Lucille as well. So Dave, I don't know how many years ago it was when you got me onto the onto the environmental board, and really appreciated both your contributions and Lucille's contributions over the years. So for everyone watching and for the new folks, Dave is our he's just the fellow who speaks for the trees in our urban forests and has done so much work to try to put in a lot of trees into the ground. So if you see a lot of young trees around Oneonta, I can pretty much assure you that they were put in the ground by Dave and his efforts. And Lucille's kind of been our champion of really making sure that the city is at its top peak appearance with addressing a lot of our plantings and our gardens and weeding, and has really kind of stayed on top of working with our city employees to make sure that we are, again, looking tip-top shape. And so the contribution that you both have made to this board over, many years has really had such a positive impact on the city. And me personally, Dave, you're the one that pushed me to get involved, and it's been a great ride, and I thank you for that. So just really want to recognize your time and thank you for that time.
Oh.
I'd also like to thank the three new folks here. Public service is challenging because we do these things and you're not paid, and we do them out of love for our community and love for, in this case, the environment. But I really appreciate you all stepping up to donate your time to the city and really work on these endeavors. So thank you. So with that, I'll get to some of the things. And in the past, I've said there's not a whole lot that will interest you because we've been pretty much COVID focused. And there are some things I think tonight that might be of interest to this particular board. So one, the bee ordinance you all brought it to legislative committee. It was discussed in December. It was discussed again earlier this week on Monday. And at this point, I think they're gonna be moving forward on some legislation to be able to have bees. What the challenge with this particular ordinance is, it's a little different than a chicken ordinance because the fact that some people are allergic to bees, and there's a lot of fear around hives and hive swarming, or people stumbling into hives and getting stung. So they've been trying to really thoughtfully address some of those concerns. One discussion point is the possible use of a special use permit, which means that they'd have that if somebody wanted to have a hive, they'd have to get a special use permit and have to follow a particular criteria in order to get that permit. That permit can be revoked. So that's kind of some of the leverage of that. I don't think yet that the committee is yet ready to bring something forward to Common Council. I imagine that they'll probably have one more meeting to work through some of the details. It seems that it's moving in that direction. There's just a lot of concerns, as you can imagine, from council members as well as I think some public. But I think that the general thought is that this could be a good thing. We just need to figure out how to do it well. So thank you to the environmental board for all your work. Whatever the past, I guess it's been almost a year this meeting, I think, right? Was when the petitioner was in the.
It was in March.
In March. Okay. So that it's been a lot of time spent, and I think that what you've brought to the committee is going to be the foundation for this for an ordinance moving forward. So thanks for your work on that. I also want to just point your attention to, these are kind of some points of interest that might be of interest to you all and others as well. One, there's going to be a presentation of some possible transit hub ideas on Tuesday in the Common Council meeting. Carrie, I think I'm correct on that. Is that right?
You are correct.
Great, thank you. I just want to make sure I was not giving misinformation. So I think that will be of interest to you all.
You know what date that is?
Whatever this coming Tuesday is.
The 19th.
Yeah.
19th, thank you.
Right.
So I think that there might be of interest to you all. There's some different plans. One of those is to kind of integrate it into the parking garage. The other is to integrate it into the space where the old Ford building is across from the parking garage, that gray building there. So I think there's some really interesting concepts that might be valuable for this board to perhaps take a look at and then weigh in on, because the city's been making some choices about which direction to move and moving forward. So I think it might be helpful to have input. Gina.
Will the plans be up before the meeting? Something we can look at?
I think, again, Carrie, are they posted right now or online?
The plans, both the original tentative plans and then the final project report for Wendell are both available on the community development page. So if you go to oneonta.ny.us and then you move from departments to community development, you'll see a blue title bar that has something to the effect of transportation hub. But there you'll be able to see a link to the council meeting in which Wendell came and did their presentation. And you'll see both the proposal and the final plans with the consumer comments after they were given.
Thanks, Carrie.
Did that start in the planning commission? Does that go through the planning commission first and then on into the sequence of events there?
It's likely that it will go through planning and or zoning at some point, but a design has to be decided upon before they can determine if there are any setback issues, variances needed, things of that nature.
Okay.
So then the other couple of points here is one, and this is for folks who live on the west side of the center city area. West Street will be repaved and new sewer and some other pipes will be put in there. So no longer will you have those big gaps in the concrete as you're driving up. So that will begin this spring, but most of that will be in the summer. The other kind of point of interest is that the on Main Street out on the east end, if you're aware of where the Glenwood Creek cuts across Main Street, it's not a real obvious kind of viaduct there. Can't even think of a location. I think it's just before the animal hospital there. But that particular culvert will be replaced this year. That has been a really very challenging place. It bottlenecks there. It's very narrow. It's an old stacked stone. It's actually kind of a beautiful old stacked stone archway, probably back from the 30s when they built that. And it's been undermined consistently when we've had some of our bigger flood events over the years, which obviously seem to be increasing because of climate change. So that will be reworked this year as well. And then lastly, if kind of point of interest is that if you're interested in taking a look at some of the DRI projects, the planning committee, and this is one of the nice things actually about COVID, is that the pandemic has kind of forced a lot of these meetings online, and now we have them all on YouTube. But if you take a look at the December 28th planning committee meeting, there is a presentation by Mayor Herzig about the DRI monies, and that's really comprehensive. And there's some very interesting things going on that you might want to kind of take a look at, and certainly it will bring you up to date on what all the DRI activities have been to this point. And that, Chair Schultz, is it.
All right, Council Member Davies.
I just wanted to point out for the new folks that as is kind of implied here in that we with the beekeeping ordinance, we in no way can enact ordinances. We are completely and utterly an advisory board. So we make suggestions, we explore suggestions, we can come up with great things that we think would work for the city environmentally, but we only make those recommendations to the city.
Right, and I think another aspect of that where this board has it can multiply its advisory bit is when we also show up at various board meetings, committee meetings, council meetings, things like that. So for those of you who weren't here, when it came to the B meeting, we worked on it. We were able to, there was some synchronicity that was going on among other people in the city government. Stephen Yurley was a big contributor to this. We actually had put together a sample ordinance. This board did some back and forth. We then sent it off to the legislative committee. So they can, that's where it's sitting now. And at the December meeting, I showed up as the representative of the environmental board to tell them the history of what we had done, talk a little bit more about things like that, and to be a kind of in-person advocate. And so, and I presume that when this goes, Mark, when this goes, you feel this is going up to Common Council again, that you can let us know. And certainly I, and hopefully others from this board, can come and speak to that ordinance. Again, I think that has been, over the years, various little things like the rail yards and a few other bits where we've been able to have our voice be heard. But yes, that is the key thing, is we can't just, here it is. We merely advise and
Yeah, and regarding that, I think the committee chair Rafter will be reaching out to you, Kevin, a couple questions and as we move it forward. And just also explain my role. So my role is a liaison between the environmental board and Common Council. And I'm here to advocate for things like the B ordinance, as well as to try to make sure that communication is taking place between Common Council and environmental board. So I report, I'll report this Tuesday on this meeting to the rest of the Common Council. So they are up to date on what you all are doing as well.
You're much too modest, Mark. Mark knows a lot that's going on. He was on the environmental board, was chair of the environmental board, got elected with a landslide a year ago to be on Common Council. But Mark is really the go-to man for environmental stuff right now. I mean, he's really on top of it. So if you have any questions, get Mark up with it. He really knows what's going on. And being on council, he's got a good voice because he can advocate for us on Common Council, which is a big outfit for the city.
Well, thanks, Dave, but it's always been a team effort. And
Yeah.
There's been a lot of folks have been involved in a lot of these efforts. So
and as an example for your predecessor, right? I mean, the charging station that is in the Deet Street lot, that was through Common Council, that was through our representative, our liaison, and this board as well, and this going back and forth. So it's an important thing, and it is a way that not just through our more official letters of intent or whatever, but is the also official communication between the board and Common Council. So it's been very fruitful that way as well. So we can also see what's coming down and maybe occasionally advise. So, all right. So thank you very much.
But let me ask one question about the structure of city government. Which city committees do have decision-making authority, and are most of them just advisory like we are?
Yes.
yeah, most of them are advisory. I mean, there's a few that have more decision-making. I think zoning board, planning committee. That might be it. Carrie, I'm sure will correct me if I'm wrong. And then committees themselves of the council only have the decision-making to move things forward to full council, and really kind of work through an issue or work through something, make sure it's tight and complete, then move it to the full council.
You think planning commission has the most power? Do you think, Mark? Think any renovation in the city goes through the planning commission, as I understand it.
I wouldn't say most power. I would say that they play a role. I think zoning board also plays a role. I think there's some groups that play a central role in making sure that we are kind of adhering to some of our ordinances and our policies and checking everything. So I think there's a whole bunch of folks that are involved in that.
I think I saw Carrie go off mute, so I think she was going to.
But no, I think part of the role of
Yeah.
not everybody has time, but I do think it's important that members of the environmental board, and I've been retired since the year 2000, so I have had the time. It's not fair for me to interject, but if anybody has time, it is good to try to go to some of these committees and carry, I think, as much information about meetings and agenda that are pumped to the environmental board is very helpful so that we know something is coming up and that we might want to go to that committee. I don't know how all that works, but that, you know,
So probably about 2 years ago, we started placing every single document that we have for the respective planning or zoning board meeting that's coming up that month onto the city clerk's website. So if you go there, you'll be able to view the application, you'll be able to view any site plan review materials, their seeker or the SEAF, all of that is available online, provided that they provided it to us prior to the meeting. And it's there for everybody to see, because we had a number of people, a number of committees, a number of citizens that were inquiring about the particular meeting. We send a notice to properties that are 200 feet surrounding the impacted property, but we bump that up to 300. We want people to know what's going on in their community. So all of that information is available there, and it's updated. Our application deadline for those respective meetings are the 1st of the month, and probably by the 7th, 8th, that website is live and ready for everybody to view.
Two things. Carrie will be sending you all a calendar for the coming month with all the meetings of all the boards listed. And you ought to stop in City Hall. And Carrie, when will this be updated? Do you see what I'm
We are
holding up?
working on it. We're working on it today. Our new members actually received an email today from our new deputy clerk
Good.
about setting up their oath of office and confirming their contact information. So we anticipate having that ready for February 1. That's our goal.
So this
Right.
booklet will list all 8, I just counted them, advisory boards in this city. You're really surprised, I bet, because the average citizen doesn't know how many people are working behind the scenes to keep the city on track.
Try to keep.
So stop in and, well, when will this take a month to get this updated, I bet?
By the time we get everybody updated, all of the contact information and get it ready to go, it's just about the 3rd to 4th week of January. So we aim for February 1. And there's the document that Lucille is holding up, but a text version of that will be available when ready on the website as well. So you'll have it in a variety of formats for review.
All the important people in Oneonta are in this.
And I'm sorry if I could really quick, Kevin, I probably should have introduced from the beginning. You, 3 of you probably gleaned, but this is Carrie Harrington, and she is our amazing city clerk,
Yeah.
and she is the keeper of all knowledge. And if you have any question, I mean, anything, she can certainly answer for you, and she'll always do so with a smile and very gracious. So just so you know that she is a kind of a real resource, well, to the city, but especially this board as well. So thanks, Carrie.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
I'll second that.
hopefully we'll be working more closely, because she's also working on the website for the city, I hear. So.
The rumor is true.
Okay, well, I would be hassling you then. Okay, so moving on to our next thing. What we have here are, if you look at the minutes and the agenda, for the people that are new, we have what are called the committee reports. I don't know if how much they've ever been a actual subcommittee. It seems that there's usually one person that kind of just gives us updates, and where I've inherited this has the kind of the updates have been community garden, Oneonta 2030, urban forests, community plantings, and community engagement. And so the community garden was primarily through Kim Noling when she was still on this board and on the steering committee for the community gardens. Since she is not here and the gardens are laying unused at the moment.
Fallow.
The fallow, yes. I'd rather see them have a ground cover on them, but that's different. And so hopefully if there is somebody here that would be interested in thinking of ways of being part of the community garden communications, that would be fantastic. I don't know exactly what the process had been, but I do know, I would imagine that the environmental board probably was helpful in getting the grant from the city that in terms of rebuilding it. We've also been instrumental or try to help guide some of the ideas about new payment structures and things like that. So we don't have anything, I believe, to discuss today about that. I would like in the future to be able to continue to have that discussion, because it does follow in with Oneonta 2030, which I'll get to in a second. And I personally would also like to see more of a community gardens, more of a community food-based sort of thing that maybe we can start taking on. I know Gina has been interested in bringing back the community nut trees, and has been instrumental in my in what my daughter is interested in for her Gold Star for Girl Scouts. So she'll be coming to this board for advice later on when she's further along in her project. But that's just something that I'd like to keep on the agenda in the future. But we need to find people who would be wanting to take the lead on that. Oneonta 20, yeah, oh, Gina, yes, sorry.
Don't we also need to continue the placement of the trees that Dave's talked about that are coming? So finding sites for trees, the elms, that's also.
Yeah, I think we'll get that. You're going to go through committee report on the urban forest?
Yeah, when we get to the urban forest, we'll do that. That's another one that is going to lie fallow for until we can get somebody else on there. And I think that the community trees, maybe we can combine that with the community, the urban forest and community gardens. Maybe that could be a way of, no, Dave's saying no,
Yeah. No.
don't do that. Keep those two separate. I hear you. I'm just trying to think about what might work given what.
No. Can I
Anyway,
go urban garden? Can I go? Are we on to urban gardens now?
we're moving through there. So the next one on the list is Oneonta 2030. For those of you who are new and maybe not familiar with it, Oneonta 2030, I think several people on this committee, or certainly Mark and former members of the board. This was back in 2013, I think, put together along with other community members and city council members, put together a report on what sorts of things we would like to see the city look like environmentally in the year 2030. And so we have recently started to go back and look at that, and we've identified places where we've moved forward, where we've made some progress, and we've actually checked off some of those things. We've identified things that we haven't quite completely checked off, but are in the process of doing. And we've recently taken up some things that we would like to revisit and see if we could push it along. And right now we've been looking, and I'll send out the Oneonta 2030 report to the new members if you haven't seen it yet. It's been, and Gina has been pushing for, and I think we all agree on transportation issues. And so Gina, you had your hand up too.
I was just going to say quickly that not only is the 2030 document rich and substantive with goals in sectors, it's endorsed by the comprehensive plan, which I found out because I'm trying to do my homework now. So that gives us an impetus to move forward on some of these sectors.
Right, which is another reason why we wanted to look at that, because while we're our advisory, we also like to go into our advising with as much backing up as we can. And since it's been endorsed as the city plan, it's a lot easier to make those arguments. So like the city streets movement and stuff like that. Gina, do you have anything? I know we made some initial contact about some of the transportation issues. Were you able to follow up any on that?
Sure. I think there's a misunderstanding with the guys you reached out to. I'm not really looking for traffic volume numbers and that sort of thing. So the questions I have are related to our planning. Again, how we take these lovely goals and we come up with real actions, metrics, and some of that would have to do with things like in several places we endorse, or the plans endorse, the city should procure, let's say, greener fleet of vehicles. So is that instituted in the plans as we go towards, we need a new car, truck, or et cetera? Again, how do we get that to a metric? We understand what the fleet size is, but the bigger issue is what are the emissions and how do we move towards, whether it's through alternate fuels, alternate vehicles, et cetera. So again, sort of how we connect those dots to actions and the planning that takes place within the city bureaucracies. So that would be one. So I have some best practices out of DOE, again, how we do that, again, what it looks like in cities and what are some of the things they're doing. Again, a lot of it relates to what has already been talked about, walking, alternative strategies, bicycling, et cetera. More safe and attractive ways to do those things. But we also have, again, we've got some specific things both in the comprehensive plan about reducing greenhouse gases. So we're committed to that. That's part of the plan. How are we moving forward on that quite specifically? Not with we're going to think about and talk about in liaison, but what really can we do? What can we do? What is the bus system doing? And in the 2030 plan, again, there's some great stuff there, some of which needs to be updated. Do we really want a CO2 ordinance for city taxes, carbon pricing, or anything like that? So maybe we need to look at some other policy alternatives, for lack of a better word, perhaps than are reflected in 2030. So some updating or some rethinking about how we leverage, as we said before, what the state is doing. So if it's electrification of the transportation system, we need that better reflected. And so that's kind of where I've been at, what I'm working on a little bit.
Okay, fantastic. And if you can send
still have this sort of how is planning done on transportation in the city and by whom?
That's actually fantastic. And I think that actually leads into something that is very similar to Oneonta 2030. So I'm going to kind of start, I think, lumping them together, or at least today, and maybe I'll break this out. As we said in starting back this time last year, I think it was this movement, Mark, that you're thinking about that started in the January meeting. Last year was the beginning of the climate smart task force. I've mentioned it a few times in previous meetings. And at the last meeting in December, I said that we were actually going to have a meeting, which we did. The community, the Climate Smart Task Force is Greg Matisse, Stephen Yurley, Danny Lappin, myself, and Mark Davies. And so one of the things, and so what we did, I have a few things that I wanted to share with you all. So first of all, let me show you this. So right now we're aiming, and Mark, stop me at any point where I say something wrong or dumb. So right now I'm sharing with you, so you just type in Climate Smart New York and you'll get to something that looks like this. And you can click on the actions. And so we are right now aiming for a bronze level action. And that you have to get a certain number of points. You see 120 points over here. You have to make certain pledge elements. And to get to the silver is 300. And I think the gold has yet to be determined. And so at our meeting last week, maybe, I don't know, COVID's messed with my time. We actually started to go through all of these to find out what things we could act on, what things that we've already done. And so I encourage you all to look at this because it's just interesting. So government greenhouse gas inventory, which is something that this board will have to probably work with a student again. Mark did it last time, but we're up for our 5-year re-looking at that. And there's a couple of other things here. And there's a reason why I wanted to point this out right after Dina spoke, was because there are 2 action points here, fleet inventory and efficiency policies, and a few other things that are part of this. And when you click on this, one of these things, if you want to go in there, it'll tell you why this thing is, how to implement the actions, and what all needs to be turned in to be able to get a certain number of points. And so this is something, some of these things we're well able to do. For instance, things like inventory. are something that we can put together. We decided, we determined that we could put together relatively easily. But there are things on here. When we went through this list, it was pretty easy to rack up almost enough points for the bronze with just by filling out a lot of paperwork and implementing some community outreach. Which leads me to think that I would like to, when we get further along in this task force, is to move towards the silver, and that would require things like putting together a fleet efficiency policy. And so I think this is also where we might be able to take these concerns, these ideas that you're talking about turning a wish into an action. And we not only would have the Oneonta 2030 in our corner, but we would also have this climate smart community project that we're already a part of. Mark, does that sound?
Yeah, and if I could add, thanks for hitting this, Kevin. So I mean, this was an effort that was begun by the environmental board, gosh, 6 or 7 years ago, to get the city to become a climate smart community. And so a lot of these things have been done. The challenge is really going back through and certifying them and getting them all kind of uploaded and certified. We're not the size city that can afford to have a climate smart specialist who sits there and this is his job every day to load in information and keep things going. So it's really been on the back of employees from the city that are very busy. So what I would say is that if there are actions that might be appealing to folks, this is a great place to get involved. There's certainly plenty on this list of different actions to really dig in on. And I was doing that in my own teaching, was to take my students and get them involved in doing greenhouse gas inventories and things like this. So there's plenty of opportunities. And I think the way that we're conceiving moving forward on this is that rather than one person being the point person for doing all this, it's a collective effort, and we would feed all these actions through to the task force. So we'll be able to upload it onto the site, and then we can kind of keep collection of our points. So this is good for two reasons. Clearly, it's great to be able to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and to create more sustainable practices and policies within the city. But the other thing, I think this particular point is a little bit more important right now, is that when we get bronze certification, it puts us in a higher level to be able to receive particular grants, so that when we have this particular certification, we get more points on our grant application and allows us access to grants. So for example, we were able to get points on a grant for $420,000 to create a countywide composting. And that was thanks to just having kind of a climate smart community. Adopting the climate smart community plan gave us some points, and we were able to get that grant. So it's certainly right now in a time of compressed budgets for the next couple of years, I would imagine, grants are going to be a great source of funds for this city to be able to really address some environmental issues. So I think that anything that we can do to be able to support climate smart communities and our actions or our steps towards these actions or certifying these actions will certainly help out in the long run with environmental projects.
Right, and so one thing that that I really would like to see, and at the next meeting, I think I'll start talking a little bit about some of the tasks that are more relevant to things that we've already been talking about for the environmental board. But going forward in this, I really encourage everybody to kind of take a look and see things. And one of the things that I hope, again, because right now most of the document uploading and certification is really going to be on Greg Matisse's and Stephen Yurley's shoulders for right now. I know Mark has got a few documents that he's going to be able to put up for some of these things. I think Danny might have some as well. But there's a lot that still needs to be done. If we can get to silver, that makes our job even easier to do stuff. And what I would like to see kind of work is that members of this committee help to attain those. And then, I, as the current chair and whoever might become chair in the future, would then be the one that would be responsible for then uploading those documents. So, don't think that you have to do all of the paperwork and all these other things. But I do think that right now this might be between Oneonta 2030 and these climate smart task force points, I think this might be a good way for this board to sort of organize their efforts without giving up any of the other things that we've been doing. But it's a way of being able to focus in. So I'm going to stop sharing for right now. So anything else on that committee report? Up next is urban forest, and that is an important part of the climate smart task force, the climate smart community. So that's not going to. Oh, I see Gina's hand.
Just Kevin, if you could send around the 2030 document to the new folks.
Yeah, that was what I was going to do.
Oh, great.
I was going to get the ones that have the little yellow and the green check marks on it to show that what we've already done. All right, so Dave, we've already talked a little bit about urban forests. We know that we have those elms that are on their way. Is there any last comments you want to make?
Yeah, there definitely is a few comments. Yeah, we need someone else to, I'm willing to do volunteer as a non-member of the board if that's useful, but we need someone like one of you new gentlemen and new young woman. We need someone who's going to step up and get involved with the urban forest. This was started back under Mayor Lennox, excuse me, I'm
Nader.
Pardon? Nader, thank you.
Nader.
Thank you.
Yeah.
About 2004, 2005, we've put in well over 500 trees over the years. We have no money, but Dick Denacor, when we first got the request from the mayor to look at an urban forest, Dick Denacor got money, wrote up a grant, and jointly with the DEC, we got, city had to match it, 7,500 from the city, 7,500 from DEC. So we worked about $15,000 for 2 or 3 years and got plenty of trees. And ongoing along the way, we've got well over 600 trees that have been planted. These trees have grown. And so we encourage the city to get a person who could get involved with trimming them. And we do have a person that's doing that now. He's getting ready to retire. We also look at tree sites and try to plan ahead. We've got our little cheat sheet here that Dick Denacor made up for us. And this is just one of several sheets we have that lists the location of the tree, the date it was planted. Are there wires overhead, which limits the size of the tree you can do? What is the width of the median between the sidewalk and the curb, et cetera, et cetera. So I would love to take these older reports that were made 6, 8 years ago and go back through them and look at each of the sites. Some of these trees have died. Some of them have grown to be good, steady trees, healthy. Some, not many, a few maybe are a little bit tired and need a little bit of updating, but a lot of work can be done. So if any one of you guys are interested in trees, your volunteer to the environmental board could be to get involved with this stuff. And I'd be happy to work with you. We get the trees from a nursery, we dig the holes and we plant them. We put the stakes up. We make sure the trees get messed up by some of the kids having a little party time after Friday, Saturday night downtown. We have to deal with some of that stuff. There's a lot of little nitty gritty stuff. The city does not have the manpower nor the time to get involved with that. So we on the environmental board have more or less taken this upon ourselves. We make sure they get watered. If there's the new trees, we don't for the older ones, they don't need it. But the newer trees, we make sure they get watered. If they're only in there for a year, there's no point in letting them, if we get a drought, there's no point in letting them die on the vine, so to speak. So, and just generally keep in touch with what's going on with our urban forest. We have had surveys done. Cornell University had a group here, did a survey. We also hired another professional group. We have a full knowledge of where the emerald, where the ash trees are, and they're being watched. Some have been removed. Lots of stuff. The engineering department has been very good. Greg Mattice, head of the engineering board, has been very good. We've always had to work closely with them. And it's just a major thing to do. And if any of you guys or two of you want to get involved, please let me know, because I'm bailing off the board, but I don't want this to just die in the midterm. So anyhow,
I encourage somebody to do this. I would like to. I can tell the difference between a conifer and the other kind of tree. And
Hey, I'm a geologist. Don't
I
tell me
spent-
about
I
not
spent-
knowing
I
a damn
spent-
thing
I
about
spent- I
trees.
spent 2 years of my life every day during summers driving through the village of Arlington Heights, watering all the trees. So
Where was it? In Illinois?
Yeah. So, but this is something really important, and I certainly would like to make sure that we get that list from you, Dave, so that we can.
Yeah, I got it. I'm trying to update it also. But
Reach somebody. I'll be happy to be a second and learn a few trees on the way. But for those of you who maybe got further along in Scouts.
And if any of you know folks that want a tree in their front yard, let me just backtrack for 30 seconds. We were told when we first started planning this, we could never put a tree on private property. It was against the law. We'd go to jail for 50 years, etc. New mayor comes in, Dick Miller said, why not? And he said, just get him to sign off on it. So we now have the ability to put trees in individuals' front yards. Yes, the city buys a tree. Yes, the city plants it. And it's once they agree to let us go on their property, they are ownership of the tree after 2 years, so the city does not get stuck with trying to remove it or trim it 50 years down the line. But it has opened up a lot more areas where we can plant trees. We have 20 elm trees coming in the fall of 2022. We bought them as little trees from New Hampshire. They're growing, getting to be nice trees, and they're going to be sent to us in 2022. So they're disease resistant, and so this is a thing we're getting cooking on now. There's so many elms in the city as there are in every village in upstate New York. We try not to put too many more elms in. We're looking at oaks, London planes, whatever else might be appropriate. Ginkgo, I love ginkgo. The oldest tree in the world is a ginkgo. The oldest geologically, the earliest tree was ginkgo. So I love ginkgos, and they're a good street tree. So anyhow, I'll just throw out that for the urban forest.
No, so yes, I'm hoping, and we can do that, and so we appreciate it. Lucille, did you have your hand up for something, or?
No, I was just saying we got one of his in the front yard.
Excellent. If I had much of a front yard, I would ask for one, but Pine Street.
And Lucille, you've planted trees. You planted trees.
Yeah, I've helped you.
On the board here has planted
fact,
trees. Every damn one of you on the board has helped plant trees.
In fact, when you asked me if I'd come on the board, I said yes, but only if you pursue re-treeing this city. Because when we came here in '62, I could walk anywhere here in the shade and no more. And the trees you're allowed to plant now don't really shade the sidewalk. They're teeny little.
Well, right. The ones in the median, we can't.
No, I know it. I know.
Overhead, et cetera. Yeah.
Yeah, because the wires are up there and they don't, the nice, you don't.
No, for any of the new board members, if you have a favorite place that you think needs a tree, let me know. But whoever knows is going to help me get involved with this. So anyhow.
Dave can hook you up with a tree. All right, so excellent. So community plantings, did you want to have anything?
No, just, it bothered me greatly that there are weeds growing up everywhere, making our city look like heck. And my daughter tells me, Mom, it's just because there's so much rain now, and the weed seeds get stuck in between the sidewalk and the curb, and people are ignoring them in front of their houses, and they've got knee-high weeds everywhere. It bothers me greatly. So, and downtown, we created that garden, Main Street. It's a garden all the way along, and then they didn't have anybody to take care of it. So now they supposedly have somebody at least part-time. You just got to get them going again in the spring.
Yeah, I think this summer took a lot out of it. Was a lot of things going on, but we don't want to. But we don't want to make that become the new normal. So.
And I think one of the reasons our poor city manager retired and threw up his hands. Look at that alleyway between the back of the History Center and the next building. It's a disgrace. And they say, oh, because there's no one owner there to lean on, it's got 3 or 4 buildings backing up to that alley. You walk by it, anybody visiting this city, you'd think it was the slums of New York. The alley on the other side of the street is well kept because there's 2 owners, one on each side that the city can lean on to clean it up. I don't know. I tell my husband he's got to move me out in the country. Okay.
Okay.
You know.
Well, we'll try to once we figure out how the everything's working and we get back into the summer, then we'll try to keep that spirit alive of getting rid of the weeds and keeping everything looking as nice as it does with all the plants.
I know Eric Roberts. I'll lean on him.
There you go. There you go. And so the last thing that our committee reports are community engagement. That has been things like our Green Star program that we can talk about at another date. And some other things, but COVID has kind of tamped that down a bit, are going into that. So, and again, we can change some of this around as we see fit, but I do want to make sure that we keep gardens in there in some way or another. I think that we want to think about, we are in the environmental board, and that I try to keep in mind the idea of what the environment is through what the environmental justice movement says, which is that the environment is the places where we live, we work, and we play. And so, that does mean keeping plants and trees and flowers and things like that, even, in planters as an important aspect of what our environment is that we live in. And so I do appreciate the work that you put into that, Lucille, and of course you too, Dave, with the urban forest. And we're going to try to do our best to keep these things moving. Because I knew that this was going to be kind of an outgoing, incoming sort of meeting, and January doesn't have a whole lot going on in it typically. I don't have any other new business, but I did want to leave some time for Dave. He has been doing some historical research on this board, which I thought would also be a good time, because Gina is still relatively new. I'm still pretty new to this board, and now we've got 3, and then certainly another one, completely new members. And so Dave, if you want to.
Yeah, I'm trying to boil 50 years down into 15 minutes, so bear with me. And just the hook if you have to, Kevin. I mentioned in an email, the old vaudeville, you could pull a guy off the platform with a big hook, feel free. Okay, 1970, Mayor let us establish the environmental board. John New, who was biology guy at Suco, was the main thing. Jane Lawson, a lovely woman that knew a lot about City of Oneonta. I want to quote her words from 1970. The board should have a bit more status in the decision-making actions of Budget and Planning Commission. And that's kind of what I was yapping about earlier. Feel free, we are advisory. We have no budget, no authority, just advise. It does not mean we can't make a little noise. And I especially enjoy doing this, having been retired since the year 2000. Anyhow, the more noise, the better is my philosophy. Sensible, legitimate noise, be alert, and try to push environmental issues. Okay, where am I going to go with this? Earth Day, 1970. Our environmental board started in 1970, 51 years ago. Suco, somewhere along that ballpark, built the field station up on Osage Lake to monitor the lake up there. Hartwick College bought 700 acres of land, Pine Lake. And us guys that were involved with the city, the college buying that, we had the starry-eyed dream that we would try to keep that forever wild and never logged. It was logged about 100 years ago, but I would like to argue we won, because a portion of that land was recently sold to the state of New York for $1 million. Hartwick paid $350,000 for the whole campus up there, the lake, 25, 30 acre lake, the lodge, the cabins all around it. The owner wanted to sell it, not to a developer, but he was tickled pink when Hartwick was interested in buying it. So anyhow, we did that. And recently the upper track 700, 800 acres was sold to the state of New York to expand Rydell Park. Rydell Park has more acreage than Gilbert Lake, which is a fact unbeknownst to many people. Part of the lake of the properties on the north side of I-88. The other part goes up the hill, joins with what was Hartwick Park property. Mud Lake is up there, a bog with plants left over from the glacial age, only 10,000 years ago. They're remnants of that old kind of a microclimate up there. So that was all going on in the 70s, okay? Then in I-88, planning out the layout of I-88. The environmental board got wind that I was not on the board then. I didn't come on until the year 2002. But anyhow, the environmental board back there, and Jane Lawson, John New, et cetera, decided that was not a good idea to turn city parkland into an interstate. So they wrote Volpe, the Secretary of Education in Washington, and the mayor got wind of this and flew down there with a couple other people to negate what the environmental board had said. He didn't like the letter. He wanted to have I-88 on this side of the river, and in the back of the city fathers, they had the idea of South Side, which of course happened. That's in the town. We got no tax benefit from South Side at all. But anyhow, they decided that would be a place where businesses could establish, and maybe they were right, maybe they were wrong. But anyhow, the board made a decision that was not a good place to put I-88 along the riverfront, cutting our park lawn off from the river. That's way back in the 70s. Okay, then as things moved on, gas plant. There was a gas manufacturing plant in the city of Oneonta as you cross the railroad tracks going into Neowa Park, just next to the Maskey Field, the minor league baseball diamond down there. There was a gas plant. The gas plant was designed to take coal, hit hot steam on it, generate methane gas, which then could be pumped to the people in the city for use, warming their house, et cetera, et cetera. Unfortunately, the residue was highly toxic. It was sitting there for years and years. Dale Burrington, a member of the environmental board, took it upon himself like a bulldog, and for years and years, he chewed onto the legs of the DEC and finally got them to come. They took out tons and tons of coal tar, had it treated over near Albany, heat treated, got rid of all the junk, brought it back and dumped it in there. There was still, the big concern was that this coal tar was going to slowly, by gravity, migrate into the Susquehanna River. So that was a real concern of DEC, but Dale got them to finally come and take a good part of it out. There still are plaques out beyond the Maskey Field where they still do to this day monitor anything that plume might be moving. So my point being here that Dale didn't let it just slip by. He pursued it for years and years, and we finally, the environmental board member, succeeded in getting that. Fracking comes on. Yeah, the city of Oneonta was not pleased about the fracking idea, and as a geologist, I was not very pleased with it either. This DEC said, well, we're going to be having some public hearings, and they decided to have one public hearing in Binghamton, another public hearing in Albany, and the crux of the matter is that the wells probably would have been drilled, had this succeeded, would have been in the area between Oneonta and Binghamton, the so-called sweet spot. So I went to the mayor and I called DEC and said, why can't we have a public hearing here? We want to get this on the public record. And the DEC folks said, well, if you've got the money, you can have one. We don't have any more money. We're out of budget. So I talked to the mayor, Dick Miller. He said, yeah, the city should get involved with this. So we held a public hearing that went onto the record. This was all our environmental board stuff that was pushing for this. So we got the public hearing. It was all part of the legal document. And ultimately the mayor or the governor said no fracking. Along the same lines, then same idea, we had the transmission lines that were being put between Binghamton and Albany and using the frack gas from Pennsylvania. And our group, the environmental board here, and another group up in Cooperstown called Otsego 2000. It's an independent group, not funded by the city. Happened to have a lawyer who's head of the group, still is, and a lot of legal stuff went on. And finally, they quit doing the idea of a pipeline going through Oneonta. And recently, I don't know if you kept track of this, but many other pipelines are withdrawing. The idea of taking frack gas from Pennsylvania is not being pushed that hard any longer. So we had a small part in that. I must also mention we have Otsego 2000 up in Cooperstown. Their main mission is historic preservation and also supporting the agricultural aspect of the county. And I happen to be on that board, so I kind of been very nice to work between that board and our environmental board here. Another one is Otsego County Conservation Association. They do other good environmental things there. They've got a piece of farmland that was given to them up on the west side of Lake, way up towards the north, past Cooperstown, up towards Richfield. And so that's another group in town. Audubon is another group in town. So there's all kinds of environmental groups in the area. You folks seem to have been here long enough time to pick up on a lot of that stuff. Where else are we going? Climate smart cities. Thank you to Mark. And another thing that Mark did in his days when he was on the environmental board, not too long ago, he also tried to get food wastes in the city from the colleges, possibly the hospital, the grade school, maybe high school stuff, tried to get all that. And he went so far as to actually get some equipment and also get a site where this can be done, still working on it. But the idea being to get this high quality waste, which can then be recycled as a high quality product, probably with a good price tag on it, to sell it as good high enriched stuff for soil. Community garden, we already mentioned. Kim Noling did a magnificent job in the community gardens. If you haven't been down there to see him, go down and look at him. And she just got off of the environmental board, but she got grant money to do this and pursued it. That was her thing. And they're amazing what she did over the last 2 years. What else we got here? I'll run through very quickly. Dick Denacor sent me a follow-up on stuff that he did when he was sort of acting as secretary of the environmental board. I'm going to go through this very quickly. Oh, one thing I didn't mention, should have. Early in the game, back in about 203, the city was asked by a couple of folks, 2 or 3 folks in Texas, why don't we put a wood burning plant in the city down in the old rail yards? And the deal there was the state of New York had what they call the Empire Plan. And the Empire Plan, which the state supported, was to help bring industry into the state. And one way you could do this would be to take the taxes that the new industry would have, and the state would pay for them and give, for instance, in our case, if this wood burning plant came in, the state would reimburse them, give the city tax money, which we weren't getting anyhow. And so the city fathers were getting kind of interested in this. Well, we finally got wind of it, and this is why I'm urging people to keep track of what's going on in the city. We got wind of this on the environmental board and thought, well, the Common Council doesn't really have time to discuss it and invite the public to come in, et cetera. So on our meetings every month, we invited the public to come. We got speakers to come in from DEC. We got speakers to come in from a forestry association. And we got Dr. John May, who is a pulmonologist from Bassett, to come in. And he explained that the idea that they could clean up the smoke, the stack was at the elevation of Hartwick College, Suco, and Job Corps. So that's what would have come out. And May argued with their the advisor, the engineer for them, that there's no way they could take out this particulate matter PM less than 2.5 million, 2.5, I think millions of a meter, I think it is, the little micro thing. And he pointed out that this very fine stuff, you cannot get rid of it in a smokestack. It goes through your nose, gets into your lungs, and it's really horrible. So based on a lot of the arguments that we had from some of our experts, finally the developers decided, okay, and they pulled out. I swear to God, if the environmental board had not jumped on that, there would be a wood burning plant down there to this day. So we were very proud of that kind of stuff. So on and on. What else can I say? Dick, okay, another thing that this is the kind of stuff that may come up. truck traffic on Rose Avenue. There's a cement plant down across the railroad tracks right below Rose Avenue on the east end. And the citizens there were upset because the trucks were coming too fast and all right, City of Oneonta is one of the oldest members in the state of the tree program. I forgot what they call it, City Tree or something. It's a national organization, but we in Oneonta have had this for about, I think it was the 10th longest city. And so we're trying to do that, and we have to do certain things environmentally. Incidentally, in the tree situation, we did a survey, and the trees were evaluated, the whole bench of trees that we have evaluated about $5 million. So it's a real asset that the city has. Anyhow, all right, enough is enough. But anyhow, I just want you guys to get a sense of what kinds of things the environmental has. We do kind of things that we think are necessary. And it's nice that Mark is working with the city. That's great. And we always have worked with the city, but sometimes we've had to awaken the city to certain things. And I feel that's one of the jobs that the environmental board has done, is to look and find and speak out. I'm a little embarrassed that 4 buildings have gone up in the city. Not a one of them has a solar panel. Not a one of them has geothermal. And I'm a little embarrassed that in the last 5 years, all this stuff kind of slipped through. We got noticed of it sort of after the fact. Oh, the building's going to be done. What about this? Oh, you're too late. You didn't get to us earlier. Maybe we could have thought about it. We can't put the solar panels on the roof. There's not enough structure built into the building, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, you know, that's end of my little spiel. Welcome to the board.
Well, thank you, Dave. There was a lot of, there was a lot of history there that I was not aware of. Certainly not their earlier days, and some of the fights that the battles that had to be.
Well, I think the city of Oneonta's environmental board is probably one of the top in the state of New York. Now, I don't know other cities that have environmental boards. I've never done that, and to my knowledge, there's no interaction between environmental boards in the state. But I think, given the interest in the initiative that this environmental board has had, we have done a lot for the city of Oneonta, and that's what it's all about. So anyhow.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I don't know, Mark could probably attest to this too, when we were going through the Climate Smart Task Force tasks, it was really amazing to see how many things the city has already done. I know a lot of them were endorsed or brought to the fore from this environmental board and the people that have been working on it. So there's a lot that's going on. There's some exciting things that are happening in the state. There are exciting things that are happening in the county. There's things in the city as well. So you know, just because we're advisory, like Dave says, doesn't mean that we don't get some stuff done, and we don't have the opportunity to speak up and try to get things to be better than they are, and to be an advocate for the citizens here, the residents. So I think that is it. So again, Lucille, Dave, as our longtime members, thank you again. We really appreciate it. To our new members, reach out to anybody on the board. Feel free to reach out to me if there's some questions that you have about this environmental board, things that you want to do. I really encourage that. When it took a while for me to find my feet, and it was made possible after, you know, in the time where we could actually meet together in our fancy chairs at our fancy bags that we get. Getting to walk home with Mark, or getting a ride home with Tracy or others, and just having some discussions, it really helped me figure that out. Obviously, there's not that after meeting walk that we can have right now. So in the meantime, I do encourage Paul and Dan and Mike just to reach out to anybody on the board but myself, and there's no question that's too dumb to ask or anything like that. And I don't think that anything is so written in stone that we're going to just sit there, and Gina as well. I mean, you've been here for a couple months now, but still, where we can't figure out a way of accommodating your interests. So to the outgoing, again, thank you. To the incoming people, thank you. We really appreciate it. It was hard running on a few numbers of people because our quorum was based on the number of spaces that were had, not the number of spaces that were filled. So we all get busy sometimes, and we all can't make a meeting or whatever like that. But to have more voices and to have more people to be there, it's really nice to
We need someone to work on the urban forest, so let me know.
I'll work on it. I know I can bother some people, don't worry. So at that, I think
So,
I will
Kevin, one question.
Yes, Mike.
One question. So looking forward, is your expectation in our February meeting that we'll look at these standing committees and figure out who wants to take leadership or be part of those committees and what other standing committees we might create? Is that your thought?
Well, I think my thought for right now is that I would like to have that discussion. I don't know if I want to make any final decisions in the February meeting. There's a lot of things that are going on, but I certainly want to have that discussion. And I mean, Mark, correct me, or other people correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think it was ever really officially anybody got assigned to anything.
No.
I think these things all seem to be rather ad hoc. It was more like, oh, I'm doing this. Okay, well, why don't you report to us? And so on. So I think that's kind of where that is, but I want to have that discussion. Tracy.
Yeah, I would also venture that there are items in Oneonta 2030 that really do need some help with, some leadership. And I think that we have a document that actually does lay out where we want to be in the next 15 years, much of which we haven't had the power to work on. So not the power, the human had the hours to work on. And so with new folks coming in, that is an area that I would like to see us target. I'd like to see us target updating some of the stuff, as Gina pointed out. It's, the document's somewhat old now, and taking on some of those causes because they are supported by the city.
Right. And I think that also one way to think about these standing committees, if you will, it's more of a placeholder in the meetings that we've kind of said, these are things that are important that we want to make sure that we revisit and discuss during every meeting. And then we have new and old business that comes in as well that are other projects. But these are the kind of things that we just want to check in on a regular basis. And so I think, again, that's why we've started going back to the 2030 plan, which I will email out to everybody, the new members tomorrow. If you don't see it in your email, just shoot me an email and remind me. I'm always wanting to do this right after the meeting, but then I have other things that come up, and then the next morning I forget. So don't hesitate to bother me on that. But yeah, that's the idea, Mike, because I just, I think we want to just see where we are, what these things are going. I do want to keep things like some of these more community events still on a figure out a way of being able to make sure that they're on our monthly docket, because I do think that they're important. But what that looks like going forward, we'll have to see.
Good, thanks.
And we older members want to thank all the guys that have stepped up and led this charge.
Well, we all are very, really, we wouldn't be here if we didn't care. So
Yes, right.
Yeah.
all right.
Thank you. Thank
So
you very much.
Lucille, Dave, thank you again. We'll see you around town. I'm sure you'll be at our meetings telling us what we need to do.
That's right.
We may sit in now and then, because we're going to miss you all.
I sincerely hope to see you guys on the
We'll have to
team.
drag Lucille down there. We can talk.
Yeah.
No, it's been fun, and I appreciate everything you guys, you newer members and newer, hell, you've been around for a long time, but 5 years is new, I guess. But anyhow, keep up the good work, and it is critical. And, we all love the environment, and I've been so lucky. I started all this stuff when I was retired, so I didn't have to worry about a job, and my kids were grown up.
Well, that's how you did it all.
So
I started too early.
Yeah.
I started too early. That's how you did it all.
Yeah. No, I didn't have time when I was teaching. I taught geology for 32 years and developed the Department of Geology at Hartwick, and field trips and all that stuff. There just wasn't time. But In retirement, it's good. So
Very-
you guys, you can all retire.
The rest of us will struggle out somehow. So, all right. So I'm going to call this meeting adjourned at 8:28. Thank you all. Anything that you want to bring up to my attention in the next month or so, please do so. If I'll get that Oneonta 2030 out to everybody. And for those of us who are going back to this, well, everybody stay safe. For those of you guys going back into in-person schools and stuff like that, good luck.
Yeah.
And you can tell I'm going on Monday. So anyway, so, all right. Have a good night, everybody. And thank you, Carrie.
Bye, Lucille.
Adios.
Bye, David.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
Have a good
All right,
night, guys.
thank you.
Good to meet you, new guy. Hope I see you along the way. You new guy. Yell if I can do anything. I've got some history of the old